It's time for a change.
Tonight, catch the TV3 Eyewitness News Weekend Report.
Now from WWAY-TV, where the news comes first, this is Eyewitness News 3.
Good evening, I'm Michelle Malden. A fire at Wrightsville Beach this evening damaged a cottage and sent smoke into neighboring condos and houses. When Wrightsville Beach firefighters arrived on the scene at around 8:45, smoke poured from every crevice at number 7 Oceanic Avenue. Quick action from the fire department and backup from Seagate firefighters kept the damage minimal and the blaze from spreading to other cottages.
Fire involvement in the garage apartment, possibly extending to the second floor. Right now the fire department has the fire under control. In a very short time we'll start salvage and overhaul and taking up our lines and beginning our investigation.
No one was home when the fire broke out and no injuries have been reported. Chief Ward says the department has not determined the cause of the fire. A New Hanover County fire that left one man dead is still under investigation, but an autopsy has confirmed the identity of the body found in the rubble. A medical examiner has identified the body of Sterling Ray Melton, found Friday after a fire burned his home to the ground. An autopsy report says Melton died of smoke inhalation. Authorities believe Melton was trying to put the fire out of the mobile home on Patsy Lane, but it was more than he could handle. They found a fire extinguisher lying near Melton's body. The cause of the blaze is still under investigation. A hazardous materials team in Wilmington spent a week training to handle chemical emergencies in New Hanover and the surrounding counties. The training ground was based at DuPont in Brunswick County. This training session helped to boost hazmat teams' confidence that they can handle chemical emergencies. Steve Mason works for the Wilmington Fire Department's Hazardous Materials Response Team. The group is getting hands-on experience on handling chlorine in the event of a rail car leak. Chlorine is one hazardous material that travels on the rails frequently. Nationwide, DuPont is trying to prepare emergency teams to respond quickly and safely.
The team will be going in, capping, using a capping kit to stop the leak. They will do an assessment. Then they will do actually the mitigation of the leak, and then they will send in a monitoring team to monitor to make sure everything is stopped, and then they will come out.
Crew members say you never know when an accident is going to happen, and it's best to be prepared. There aren't a lot of chlorine rail cars going through Wilmington, but the Hazardous Materials Response Team covers not only Wilmington but the surrounding areas as well. Workers here say programs like this are not only helpful but necessary.
Everything's okay. We'll be coming out.
It was fairly controlled, so everybody, we're pretty calm about it. It's training, so it went pretty well. It's hot in the suits, but it's not 90 degrees out here today, so it's not too terribly bad.
There were a few hitches, like the warm suits and a smoke machine that wouldn't work, but this was a training ground and instructors were pleased with the project's results.
The biggest thing, I guess, would be going up and down that ladder.
And with just over a week before Election Day, all three presidential candidates are hitting the campaign trail, hoping to use the remainder of their time to drum up support from undecided voters. We get the latest on the campaign swing in this report.
It was perhaps the most bizarre twist in this already strange campaign. Ross Perot offering more details about why he dropped out of the race earlier this year, blaming it on the Bush campaign's dirty trick squad.
The Republican Party intended to publish a false photograph of my daughter who was getting married on August the 23rd, smear her before her wedding, and actually disrupt the wedding ceremony.
In South Dakota, President Bush, who has for days been ridiculing the news media, suddenly called on these same news organizations to give him a hand with the sudden flank attack from Mr. Perot.
Well, I have enough confidence in the media to be sure they'll make him document that. That's preposterous.
Mr. Bush's news secretary, Marlin Fitzwater, went the president one better, suggesting Ross Perot has gone around the bend.
There haven't been any dirty tricks against Ross Perot. This business about his daughter is just crazy.
But Orson Swindle, Mr. Perot's spokesman, stood by the dirty tricks allegations.
If Mr. Perot said them, they're true. Mr. Perot does not lie. Mr. Perot is a very honest man.
And Democratic National Chairman Ron Brown had no trouble believing the president's operatives were out to drive Mr. Perot from the race last summer.
It wouldn't surprise me that the Bush campaign was doing this kind of thing. They're known for dirty tactics in politics. After all, this is the same George Bush whose State Department investigated Bill Clinton's mother. Really an absolute disgrace.
And with polls showing the gap narrowing between Governor Clinton and the president, these latest allegations against Bush operatives are apt to make the last week of the campaign even more zany. Walter Rogers, ABC News.
Bill Clinton was in North Carolina today with his running mate Al Gore. The two made their first joint appearance in North Carolina on a bus tour that will take them and their wives to several stops across the state. Clinton and Gore were almost 2 hours late, but close to 15,000 people waited for them in Winston-Salem. Democratic gubernatorial candidate Jim Hunt introduced the team, calling Clinton and Gore the finest young ticket North Carolina has ever seen. Politics isn't the only area this fall where things can get dirty. There's a growing grassroots trend in this country where even kids are getting in their digs. Joyce Audley has the story.
This fall, as politicians sling mud, American kids will be covered in it and loving it. Gardening is a growing trend, with sales of garden-related products increasing. Many new gardeners are parents who found that tilling with tots is a healthy, fun activity that offers real family value.
I especially like gardening with my kids because it gives us a chance to be outside together. Gives us a chance to do something together that's not, you know, playing tennis or golf or something. We can actually do something, we can talk, we can improve the place where we live. There's a lot of satisfaction in it.
Experts say that fall is the perfect season to start. What's worked for adults often is fun for kids.
The things I like most about gardening is being able to see in the springtime what you've done in the fall. The colors in the spring garden make me feel happy and alive and joyful, and they just make me feel a part of the world.
This fall, politicians are filling the air with rhetoric, each determined to chart the country's direction. But young gardeners are taking an earthy tack, sure of their direction.
Plant it with the pointy end up.
The Dutch recently asked this youngster to present America's first lady with nearly 15,000 flower bulbs, including a new tulip named in her honor. The bulbs will be planted at the White House this fall, which means that no matter who occupies this house come spring, Barbara Bush, the tulip, will be in the garden. This is Joyce Audley reporting.
Well, I don't know about tulips, but I know there are probably a lot of people out there raking leaves today.
Good weather for gardening. Good weather for just about anything outside, as a matter of fact. Only one problem with it. It gets dark really early these days. Have you noticed that? Well, we've got more good weather on the way. I'll have details after this. Really pretty weather all across the area today. Lots of sunshine. A little bit of breeze. The breeze has died down at this hour. The sunshine's gone away. It's going to be back tomorrow, though, and we've got another lovely, cool autumn day ahead of us. In fact, 2 or 3 of them before we start to see a change along about midweek. Let's take a look at those numbers for today for Wilmington and for the Myrtle Beach area. Here in Wilmington, we made it up to 68 degrees for a daytime high today. Our low last night, 56. Cooler than that right now at 47 degrees in the Port City. Humidity on the rise at 86%. Barometric pressure also on the rise at 29.98 inches of mercury. Not a bit of breeze. Winds are calm, which is what they are along the Grand Strand as well. Again, a close agreement between the two. High of 68 today in the Myrtle Beach area. Low last night of 54. Right now, 48 in the Myrtle Beach area. Humidity at 86%. Barometric pressure on the rise at 29.97 inches of mercury. Well, our hurricane that was a hurricane last night, Frances, is now a tropical storm and seems to be sort of blowing herself out way on up in the North Atlantic. Earlier, she had been down sort of central Atlantic. She has just been tracking off to the north at about 20 to 25 miles an hour for the last day or so. So she really is way up there, continuing to track on out of sight, out of range of any threat to land. Taking a look at the 10 o'clock coordinates of what once was Hurricane Frances, now just a tropical storm. As of 10 o'clock tonight, 42.6 degrees north, 51.2 degrees west, top sustained winds at about 70 miles an hour, moving to the north-northeast at about 24 miles an hour. Right now, she is about 290 miles south-southeast of Cape Race, Newfoundland, and if you look way off here to the side, you'll see New York, Pennsylvania. So really, Francis is way on out there, continuing to track on out of the way. The storm is expected to be dissipating, breaking up, weakening within the next 24 to 48 hours. Looking at the clouds in motion for the last few hours, well, mostly clear skies over about 98% of the lower 48 states. A couple of exceptions to that. Things have not been exactly beautiful up in the northeast and into New England. Northeast seeing clouds, drizzle, rain, get on up into New England, into some of the higher elevations of the mountains. What they are seeing is light snow. In some places at the peak elevations, they've seen maybe up to 2 inches of snow. Not really expecting to see a major winter storm out of this, just messy conditions for New England. Way on back, not until you get to the desert southwest do you see the other area of weather that we have to talk about. Developing area of low pressure brought rains to the desert southwest yesterday and parts of today. Now moving into Colorado, into sections of Wyoming, also kicking up a little bit of activity Kansas, Nebraska area where we do have some rain going at this hour right there on the state line. Also some rains back in Colorado and sitting right on top of the Four Corners back there in the desert southwest. And you can see the lighter precipitation up through the northeast and into New England. Really, with no precipitation out there, there's not a lot that's going to be happening with our weather for the next couple of days. High pressure over us right now. It's going to shift slightly offshore by tomorrow. That's going to give us a change in wind direction, which will gradually warm us up, but not for tomorrow. A frontal system back to the west of us with an area of low pressure is going to be our next weather maker, but we're not going to see it until midweek. In fact, by the time we get to Tuesday, that low is just going to be beginning to approach the southeastern states. So a change on the way by midweek, and it's too early to call that. Just let's say it's nice weather again tomorrow. Tide times now for the area beaches. Our next high tide 7 in the morning. Next low tide in just a few minutes at about 12:35 in the morning. In the coastal forecast, small craft advisory in effect. Winds out of the northwest 10 to 20 knots. Seas running 4 to 6 feet. Beach water in the mid-60s. For tonight, fair and cool. Overnight low 40 to 45. Tomorrow, mostly sunny. Another beautiful day. Daytime high near 70, so take the sunglasses and a jacket. You may need it. Tomorrow night, fair with a low around 50. And looking ahead, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, pretty weather through this period. Change coming midweek. We'll let you know more about that as we get closer to it. But in general, the next couple of days look real nice, Michelle.
Sounds good to me. Thanks a lot, Kitty. And still ahead, a Johannesburg wedding brings hundreds to celebrate. The story when we come back. Stay with us. It was another full day of work for astronauts aboard the Space Shuttle Columbia today. The crew started a series of medical experiments and tests of possible new shuttle materials. Canadian researchers are also checking a new television camera system for the shuttle's cargo bay arm. The main job of the mission has already been completed, releasing a laser reflecting satellite to help measure movements of the Earth's plates to study earthquakes. The daughter of African National Congress President Nelson Mandela is celebrating her wedding this weekend. Zinzi Mandela was married yesterday in a Johannesburg church. The 31-year-old bride wore a traditional white wedding gown and was given away by her father. The bride's mother, Winnie, was also at the wedding but rode in a separate car from her estranged husband. Mandela's other children were married while he served his 27 years in jail for sabotage and plotting to overthrow the government. 500 people attended the church service. And Kim Downing and Gene Motley attended a race today, and a pretty good one, but they didn't talk about it much.
Well, they talked about it, but they said they have both seen better. But despite that, we'll still show you what happened today at Rockingham. That and more right after this. NASCAR fans love their racing because of all the excitement on the track and the electricity in the air. But every now and then, the NASCAR fans have to sit through a dull race, and that's the case today in Rockingham for the AC Delco 500. And now to the rundown. Kyle Petty leads all but 8 laps. He finishes in first. His father finishes at 25th. There you see the top 5, and now the second 5 with Harry Gant at number 6 and Davey Allison down there at number 10. Bill Elliott still leads the points race. He leads it by 70 points. On to football to check out the only undefeated team in the NFL, the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins were supposed to have an easy game against the Indianapolis Colts. The field goal go perfectly through the uprights. Chicago over Green Bay. Phoenix falls to Philadelphia in a low-scoring affair. The Giants win over Seattle. Houston got by Cincinnati. Denver loses by 3 to San Diego. New England, they have yet to win a game this year. Dallas wins over LA, and Washington kicker Chippewa Miller kicks 5 field goals, and the Redskins win by 2. Up next, more sports, golf, basketball, and the Jays fly back home. We'll be right back. Open part 2 of sports with the world champion Toronto Blue Jays returning north of the border today after beating the Braves 4-3 in Game 6 of the World Series. The Jays can finally say they have the monkey off their back after all those great seasons without anything to show for it. And yes, a lot of fans showed up at that Toronto airport to welcome back players like Dave Winfield, Jack Morris, and the series MVP was also there. And he is Pat Borders, and there you see Joe Carter, a slugger, being greeted at the Toronto airport today. Now in Texas, a playoff was required in order to figure out a winner in the Texas Open Golf Tournament. Steve Elkington and Nick Price were both tied. Texas Open leaderboard. Nick Price wins at 21 under par. Elkington in second place. Local favorite Neil Lancaster 7 shots back at 14 under. On the senior tour, Ray Floyd was a winner today as well. Closer to home, the Charlotte Hornets were back in the Tar Heel State tonight for a preseason game against Utah. The game was played in Winston-Salem with the start time moved up a few. And finally tonight, we go to the Seahawk Natatorium on the campus of UNC Wilmington for a swim meet where we have over 300 swimmers. It's a 2-day swim meet that finished today. It was a Saturday-Sunday meet. The Waves of Wilmington served as the host team. Team scoring was not held, so we can easily say everybody won, because when you don't keep score, everybody truly a winner out on campus this weekend with that Waves of Wilmington swim meet.
And you know, John, Chapel Hill has a great basketball team, and a lot of people expect to see them do well in basketball.
Always.
But they're doing really well in football this year.
Yes, they cracked that top 25 poll today. NC State and UNC right there around 21 and 22 in that poll.
We've got some fans here rooting for them. We'll be right back. Stay with us. As long as kids are kids, there are going to be a few minor discipline concerns on the bus. Once in a while, a school bus driver has to stop the bus.
Always rocking when the kids start knocking at the old door. This is the tumble bus, a 40-foot gymnasium on wheels, if you will. It's kind of an outreach program of the Gymnastic Training Center of Rochester. The bus travels around Monday through Friday to daycare centers and nursery schools, providing little ones with a lot of exercise and probably their very first encounter with the topsy-turvy world of gymnastics.
And believe it or not, they're learning a lot, all through fun. It seems kind of crazy at times, but they're getting it all put together. And they come in here and they get their stretching. The daycare directors love it because they take wonderful naps after they leave our bus. It's just a fun time.
The tumble bus doesn't roll along for nothing, of course. It costs parents $5 for a weekly session. Ask any of the kids, but they'll tell you it's a really good deal. What was the best part, Chris?
Well,
Bouncing around?
Yes.
Yeah? You like the tumble bus?
Yeah.
That's our show. Thanks for staying up with us. Have a great week. We'll see you next weekend. Good night.
Good night.
Tonight, catch the TV3 Eyewitness News Weekend Report.